20 out, it's like March 31st, and it's like plus 20, it's like, snow is dying. It's dying. Well, that's good anyway. Enough of that. Alright, so for anybody in Canada that has any doubt that the RCMP does not want, like, that gun control is, no, they're just going after the, the dangerous rifles or the ones that could be converted to autos. If this doesn't prove to you that they're going after everything, then I don't know what will. Okay, now in Canada, okay, we have basically three classes of firearms. We have non-restricted, restricted, and prohibited. There are other things such as anything before 1898 of certain calibers that are not considered firearms, such as muskets and stuff like that. Now, okay, the RCMP, okay, has recently, with what's still going on with the reclassification of firearms and all that crazy stuff, well, they're also going after antique pistols. Let me read. This is from the Canadian National Firearms Association. Okay, antique pistol reclassification. Okay, recently there have been a number of questions regarding the RCMP's reclassification of antique handguns. This issue is particularly troubling due to the misunderstandings surrounding the antique handgun in the first place. Let's start off with how the antique firearms regulations have historically applied in Canada. Here is an example of the RCMP site. So this is what's kind of current. Handguns manufactured before 1898 that can be discharged, that can discharge only rimfire cartridges other than 22 short, 22 long, and 22 long rifle. So they can't shoot any of those calibers. Those are prohibited or restricted depending on the barrel length. Manufactured before 1898 can discharge a centerfire other than the handgun designed adapted to discharge 32 short Colt, 32 long Colt, 32 Smith & Wesson, 32. All 32 handguns are banned in Canada, just so you know. 32 Smith & Wesson, 32-20, Winchester 38, Smith & Wesson 38 short Colt, 38 long Colt, 38-40, and Winchester 44-40, which or 45 cartridges. So anything in 357 Magnum, 38 Special, which if we're talking 1898, 357 Magnum didn't exist yet, but 45 Colt, basically cowboy guns did. So if you have something that is completely off caliber, like I don't know, like an old Belgium 11mm handgun, like they know you're not going to be able to get ammo for it, so those are okay to own, stuff like that, or a Pyrrhus or something like that. And certain Webley Mark 1s you can usually get, in like 4.55, which would be a kind of fun, big thumb flying out of there. And you can have them, and basically they're not considered a firearm. But if they fire any of those other cartridges mentioned, they're considered a firearm, and then, depending on the barrel length, is whether they're prohibited or restricted. So, anyway, ever since the Act was introduced, this has been interpreted the same way if the firearm in question was produced prior to 1898 and is not chambered in the calibers listed above, or for the firearm has not been altered to fire those calibers. It is recognized as an antique under the Firearms Act. As example, if you own a Colt revolver prior to 1898, which is rechambered in 38 long Colt on the example list, the 38 Special, the 44 Special, not on the list, it was recognized as an antique. This firearm can be bought and sold without a license and shot anywhere you can legally discharge a non-restricted firearm. Yeah, I know. Why can you shoot that one but you can't shoot? I know. Several weeks ago, the same time, the Swiss Arms CZ858 became prohibited, and the RCMP charged their interpretation of the law affecting the classification of many antique firearms. Now the RCMP does not recognize the same firearm as being an antique because it was originally built in a non-antique caliber. The FRT, which historically shows the firearm as antique, now has been changed to restricted or prohibited class. These numbers are of issue with this because of this, including the fact that the antique letters have been issued for these guns for many years, showing them as antiques. To have an authentic antique firearm in Canada, I've already looked into this. Basically, it has to be verified as an antique by the RCMP, and they give you basically a form with it. So if you're caught out in the bush with it, oh, here's my antique firearms, of course, have a nice day. But now that seems to have changed. They have been imported, registered, sold, traded without license as allowed under the Act. it is our opinion that the only solution here is to change the Firearms Act to recognize all firearms prior to 1899 as antique. I say go like say 1950, because like here's the thing, okay. The RCMP wants to ban all guns, so they're going to start with stuff that off common. It's just they screwed up with the Swiss F550-P90. The reason why they screwed up with that is they figured nobody would say anything, but they know what they cost, but they figured, okay, there's a handful of them, a few people will make a stink, and that's it. But they didn't expect everybody to kind of rally. Now, again, I've already kind of covered it, but long story short, we may have a new new reclassification coming up, basically a nonpartisan lab but it's a double-edged sword, because if they get rid of ban by name, appearance, and reputation, and only ban things via mechanical, then we'll win big. But if they include ban by name, appearance, and reputation, we could actually lose more guns. So we'll have to wait to see what the Conservatives actually pull out of their hat on this one. It's just governments typically don't have a good track record of giving citizens rights to their firearms. We won't know until we know. I like to give the benefit of the doubt to the Conservative government, but I mean, we still have the long gun registry data at the making of this video. It's still around. So to me, we haven't won a single thing. So we'll have to wait and see. But again, that means people who were not criminals yesterday would be criminals today because of the RCMP. To me, that's null and void. It's just they have enough bullies to go out and enforce it. But to me, antique guns are, I think there was a guy who shot somebody in like 2008 with one. Most of these antique guns don't even work. Okay, number one. Number two, if they do work and they're in good condition, they're too valuable to shoot. You might fire the odd shot out of it, but these things are not cheap too if they're in functioning condition. Just price out antique firearms at a functioning condition. It's not cheap. You might find some at gun shows, but again, would you pull the trigger on it? Maybe, maybe not. Thing might blow up in your face. So again, creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. It's just they don't want anybody to have guns, because if they're going after guns that are over 100 years old, you don't think they're going to go after your deer hunting rifle? And yes, they're going to start with the semi-autos because they're scary and they think they can get away with that, and they are getting away with it. So at some point, again, you have to understand too, and this is a point I really have to make, is most gun owners that have no idea this stuff is going on right now. So because not everybody has YouTube and stuff like that. That's the only reason why there's been. Because if you think about Bill C-68, it basically passed, and then gun owners woke up one morning, oh yeah, by the way, here's your new gun laws. What? You know what I mean? There's probably a lot of people out there that have firearms and have no idea Bill C-68 even exists. You know what I mean? Because they don't advertise this stuff, and you don't find out about it until you get, caught. So somebody right now is going to probably, go out and shoot some pop cans with an antique firearm, and RCMP will show up and they'll say, what are you doing with that? And they'll say, well, it's my antique, here's my paperwork. Oh, it's now restricted or prohibited. Thank you very much, we'll take it from you. You know what I mean? And then, by the way, we're going to give you a 3-year sentence too on top of that. You have to understand, if something is classified as a firearm and there's an offense with it, it is a criminal offense. It is not a misdemeanor. It is not a ticketable offense. It is a criminal offense. They may add tickets on top of it, but it is a criminal offense, meaning even if you only get away with the fine, you still get a criminal record, meaning you won't be able to own firearms after. You see the loophole? And that's how they play dirty. So call your MPs, call your MLAs. I'll have links down below. Now, the fight is now. It's not going to be 10 years from now. It's not going to be 5 years now. It's not going to be next year. The fight is now. Because if we don't, this is the most abrupt, noticeable, since Bill C-68, this is the most abrupt, noticeable gun grab from the RCMP. Ever since that, Australian-style gun control speech has been made by the Liberal Party, the RCMP is, I guess the Liberals are thinking maybe we're going to win the next election or something. I don't know. But the RCMP has been going full tilt on trying to ban firearms. So, think about it. We're not even 2 weeks after they've banned this Swiss Sig 550 and the CZ 858s, and now they're after this. Think about that. You know, that's moving pretty fast. And considering that it took 17 years to almost get rid of the long gun registry, I mean, new people buying new guns right now out west and stuff like that, they don't have to really worry. And it's the honor system for the provinces. Well, I think it's only Quebec that has the holdout for the gun registry. So when you look at it like that, it's the honor system to register your guns. So I don't imagine a lot of people will be buying guns in Quebec. They'll be buying them out of Quebec, and then they'll probably, you know, just not register them, you know. It's just, you know, which hurts business in Quebec. Like, we need another thing in Quebec to hurt our business. I mean, business is not booming here for many reasons. Do we need to really do another thing? I digress. But anyway, yeah, so if you have an antique firearm or you know somebody with an antique firearm, let them know. Again, the RCMP is going after everything. It's just they're starting with the scary rifles first. If they're going to go after 100-year-old handguns, they're going to go after your bolt action, lever action, Australian-style gun control, which, you know, the Australians have lost a lot, and now in Australia they're going after the bolt actions. They don't do this stuff overnight. They do it incrementally, but it seems like they're on a little bit of a hyper pace, so to speak. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. There we go. Yeah, and welcome. Oh, my face is a little red. It's like plus 20 out. It's like March 31st, and it's like plus 20. It's like the snow is dying. It's dying. Well, that's good anyway. Enough of that. Alright, so for anybody in Canada that has any doubt that the RCMP does not want, you know, like, that gun control is, you know, no, they're just going after the, you know, the dangerous rifles or the ones that could be converted to autos. If this doesn't prove to you that they're going after everything, then I don't know what will. Okay, now in Canada, okay, we have basically three classes of firearms. We have non-restricted, restricted, and prohibited. There are other things such as anything before 1898 of certain calibers that are not considered firearms, such as muskets and stuff like that. Now, okay, the RCMP, okay, has recently, after with what's still going on with the reclassification of firearms and all that crazy stuff, well, they're also going after antique pistols. Let me read. This is from the Canadian National Firearms Association. Okay, antique pistol reclassification. Okay, recently there have been a number of questions regarding the RCMP's reclassification of antique handguns. This issue is particularly troubling due to the misunderstandings surrounding the antique handgun in the first place. Let's start off with how the antique firearms regulations have historically applied in Canada. Here is an example of the RCMP site. So this is what's kind of current. Handguns manufactured before 1898 that can be discharged, that can discharge only rimfire cartridges other than